And we live. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another Everybody Can't Go Convo. I'm your host, Jessi Holley, and today I have with me, y'all know I'm always bringing somebody that I'm excited about because if I'm not excited, how do I expect for y'all to get excited, okay? So today I have on with us Miss Shaudae McMillian, and I had the pleasure of meeting this lovely lady by attending a workshop.
You are too
So
kind.
shameless plug to y'all. Y'all know how I am about learning, self improvement, personal growth. That's why you all are here. So I got to experience this amazing workshop called The Art of Audacity. And I knew nothing about it previously. I saw the title and I was like, oh, okay. Because if I'm going to have something, I'm going to have the audacity. So let's see what this is about. And I was pleasantly surprised by the programming and everything that was put together, which of course went right into a conversation about why everybody can't go. And
Mhm.
so without further ado, I introduce to you guys Miss Shaudae McMillian.
Woo,
Hi, Shaudae.
woo, 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 woo. We need some cannons. Like I should have bought some sparklers. Bring it in some pizzazz. Hello, thank you. So first of all, Jess, I want to give you your flowers first. Okay, so just a note to your viewers, baby, I'm gonna stutter. Okay, it's just one of those things. But Jess, do you know how much like energy and pizzazz and dedication that it takes to keep doing something over and over and over again? The type of discipline and the type of love that you have for the people that are already here with you and the people that's coming and even the people that will move on, because we know we don't retain everybody. But like before we dig in about me and my opinions, and I just want to say that you are an inspiration. Just being able, like, every time I talk about you, like, I was on the phone with one of our mutuals today and she was like, oh, I ran into Jess, and girl, she was podcasting interviewing. She's like, I'm gonna have him on the podcast. I said, Jess is serious about her podcast, and I just know that this is just a pebble in the river. Like, this is going to explode. It is not going to be because one of your episodes with somebody went viral or because you got somebody famous. I'm just like a little I'm glad to be just a little piece of it, but like the amount of dedication and care that you put into these podcasts is unmatched. And
I see.
so it is my honor to be here with you, especially in the beginning, because baby, ain't nothing like the beginning. It's like the first sip of water, the first piece of pie, it's that first slice of cake with the face on it or the rose, everybody want that part. So before we got started talking about me, I wanted to highlight you and all the work that you're doing. If you are watching this, Jess is a person that you want to follow, not even for just the content, but just watch what this lady is doing, showing up here, ready to go, on time. Like, that is something that is not lost on me. And it should not be lost on your viewership of how much time, dedication, and just grit that it takes to be you and doing this and constantly putting yourself out into the ethos, into the world, not knowing who's going to click, who's going to comment. It's a lot, and you are handling it with so much grace and class. And like, you have inspired me to the max. Seriously.
I really appreciate you. You about to get me to tearing up, and we only in the first 5 minutes, but I really
Listen, we gonna
appreciate your
cry.
rose.
We gonna cry. It's okay.
So, you guys gonna see me looking down a lot this episode. I tell you guys to get you a notepad so that you can take your notes, or if you want to go ahead and heart this. Favorite it if you need to go back so that you can take some notes. This is gonna be a note taking episode. I'm letting you know from jump. I'm looking down because I got my notebook. There were a bunch of things that I knew that I wanted to get out to you guys. Shaudae is a writing person. When we were in the session, it's like, okay, I got pens and I got some notes for y'all to take. And I'm like, yes. So
Mhm.
grab your pen, grab your notebooks, go ahead and pause this real quick. If you need to go run and grab your stuff, we're gonna go ahead and jump straight into it. because there are a lot of different things that I want to hit on for you guys today, and a lot of different pieces of food for thought, of course, surrounding Everybody Can't Go. So, one of the places where I wanted to start out, and we have been here before, where we had a conversation about sometimes the person that can't go with you is that old version of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you had started to expand on that when I was telling you about the brand, the pod, and what the movement is about. And you started to dive into sometimes you not being the person that can go with somebody else. And sometimes that old version of you have to release so that you can move forward. So take us straight into that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like counterculture with the whole like, you know, what I do is I'm a faith strategist. And so my faith is Christianity. I'm Jesus, the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. Thank you, God. Thank you for your grace and your mercy every day. Thank you to my Creator for even bringing me here in this moment. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. But I do believe that we get into this kind of like cycle of like, oh, you need to kill off your old self. Like I'm dead to my old self. And that's not really what the Bible meant. I think that you have to use your former self as a consultant. Consultants come into an organization when they need to be into the organization, and then they leave when it's time to go. When the work is done, then it's done, and then you can move on. Sometimes you will reuse the same consultant, sometimes you never see that consultant again. And if we look at it from that lens, we see that every season has fruit, every version of us has done work, every version of us. And it's like, even in your roughest, toughest moment where, I mean, we'll probably get into like me and my lifespan, but like, there's been times that like I've felt shame about a previous season. And I'm like, shame about what? This is the person that did the work to get me here. And so we think about like this former person carrying who we are on their backs. We start to see that, it's not about leaving it behind. It's just not needed. Like, it's like you have a job, and if I don't need that job to be done, like I don't need somebody to clean my house if I'm cleaning it myself. You know what I'm saying? I don't need, someone to help me with technology if I'm not in the need of technology. So really using that former self for what you need it for, because that's your memories, that is your heart posture, and even in your worst season, it is still the best version of you. That was your 100%, and 100% just looks different in different seasons.
That's really good. That's really good. That puts me in a mind frame of one of the things that my mentor said to me that really stuck with me. Shout out to me, Yan. And it was every stupid thing that has ever happened to you needed to happen to get you to where you are right now.
Yes.
And that really caused me to reflect backwards and like literally chronologically went backwards like, well, dang, if I hadn't have done the thing before that I loathed it. Like I wouldn't have been prepared for the thing that was right after. This job prepared me for this job. I hated
Mhm.
this position, but it gave me the skill set that I needed so that I would be able to ascend to such and such and such. And that gave me the foundation to be able to ascend to such and such and such. And I was like, well, you know what? As much as I didn't want to hear that, because we always are at like having that feeling of like, well, why did that have to happen to me? One, why not you? And two, that thing was something that it was meant to build your character, and there's a purpose in the pain that you went through. Now,
Yes.
if you decide to go through and then waste it, or go through and don't learn nothing, and you gonna just keep going through it, that's on you. And you know what, that is why you're here, if you have the desire to change that. So
Yeah.
so
It just goes into a cycle. And what is Newton's first law of energy? Whatever is in motion will stay in motion into something outside of it that has the same amount or enough force to stop it. And so you are the person that's going to keep you in motion, but you're also the catalyst to stop any type of cycle. And I think it's like I kind of want to switch back into the positive of it, because on the negative side, we can say, like, yeah, the cycle of, eating broccoli for 2 days and then going back to Debbie cakes, that's a cycle. You need to have yourself be a catalyst for it. But even to the things that you do right, like if we look at what we do right, like every morning, me and my daughter, we do yoga, we do mindfulness meditation. Every morning before we start school. That is a cycle that I never want to stop. But when it stops, when I am tired, when the amount of energy that it would take me to stretch and to lay down is the same amount of fatigue that I feel. That is a catalyst. And so if we start looking at what is stopping us from going into those good cycles, the outputs will take care of itself. So it's a James Clear quote. I love James Clear. That's one of like my top 10 people to follow and to listen to, because he's so smart. He had a masterclass and he said, if you take care of the inputs, the outputs will take care of themselves. So
Mm.
whatever you keep doing, whatever you keep putting into yourself, if it's good and it's great and it's gracious and it's sound and it's holy and it's yummy and delectable, then the output is going to be different. If you eat carrots every day, all day, then your output of your weight is going to be different. And it's just a mode that we all have to get in, of like not looking so much of like, what should I stop, but what should you continue doing? And let that be the goal. I should continue to do this, because if you continue to do one thing, you'll stop doing the other.
That's really good. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because I think that all of those good things that we do on a daily basis, if we aren't taking inventory of those good things that we're doing on a daily basis, it's so easy to quote unquote fall into the routine. We're
Yeah.
not even paying attention to, like, my whole morning routine is all positive things. It's, oh, well, I've been doing that for the past, 10 years, the past 5 years. Or, once you have created the routine and you do it every single day, you were excited about it when you
Hmm.
first wrote it down and you said, every morning I'm going to do these 6 things. I'm going to pray and meditate. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to take my vitamins and have my green smoothie. I'm going to check my account balances and make sure that I'm staying within budget. When you first made that list of things to do for your miracle morning, for your morning routine,
Hmm.
it was great for the first week, for the first 30 days, the first 90 days, maybe even the first year of doing that. You felt good about doing it. But then slowly but surely that happiness about getting that thing done dwindles
Hmm.
off. And how quickly we forget what it
Yes.
was like before we created some of those good habits and different things that we do that are positive. So I love that you brought that up, to take inventory of those things and
Yeah.
really think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that another James Clear quote is where he says, don't the way of keeping a cycle. And if you don't know James Clear, he's the author of Atomic Habits, and he talks about just don't fail twice. So if you don't do your morning routine, or you kind of slack off on Tuesday, then next Tuesday, don't don't miss it. Let yourself
Hmm.
have that one, because that's grace. And then being able to follow up and not miss out on another Tuesday, that's a self accountability. So where there is grace, there is also accountability. God only gives you grace because he wants to be able to hold you accountable. He wants you to be here long enough to be able to say, okay, I got grace. Kind of like how your mama be like, okay, I'm going to tell you one more time before we start, getting into punishments and, you know, uh, chores and extra things, however people discipline their children nowadays. It's kind of that mama stare of like, okay, I'm gonna let you live. But then we know the self corrects. Everybody mama
Hmm.
got that look.
Hmm.
If you grew up, if you got I feel like for people that are not millennials, if you had a black parent or Italian or African, any other Western country, that what
Hmm. The whole row at church knew when my mama had that look.
I'm gonna give you one chance to straighten up and hold yourself accountable. And so we got to take it serious. And the thing is, it's like also putting definitions to it. Like, what is it? What does it mean to if you're like, okay, I'm going to meditate, what does meditation look like? Is it you lying on the floor? Is it prayer? Is it this? Like, if it's multiple things, then maybe you can pick out of a Rolodex of what meditation is. Like for me, it's like prayer. I could be in my closet, I could be on my knees, I can be in the middle of my bed with my eyes still closed. That to me is still prayer, because I give myself an expanse, because life is going to happen. And when we kind of try to be in these strict kind of like, this is what needs to happen or I failed, then it's like you're not going to be able to do it, because you're going to be adverse to it. Nobody wants, it's human condition, nobody wants to be told what to do when they didn't ask to be what's told to do. We all want leaders and someone to follow. That's just in us. I mean, read the Old Testament, come on. But also when it comes to a point where you're forcing yourself and not in a flow, that's where it just comes. And starting off small, maybe you just do it Monday and Fridays, or maybe you just do it one day. Everything doesn't have to be like, I do this every single day. And you have to ask yourself, am I doing this for me, or am I doing it because I want to be able to tell people that this is what I do? Is this good for my brand? Is this good for social media? Can I put my tripod up? And it's like, the thing is like, I love when people record their daily habits and things of that nature. Yeah, wake up 5 minutes early, put that tripod on, because somebody needs to see it. But when you get sunken into that to where it starts to be more of um,
A
a
performance.
task and a
Mm-hmm.
performance than an honor. You should be able to, I am honored to have the money to have 16 things to put on my face in the morning. Like, this is the things that we need to be in gratefulness and in generosity and sharing those things out. But I think oftentimes we want to monetize everything about ourselves, because we're in that scope of desperation for money, especially at a time like this where you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I feel like we've been in that kind of like that era of desperation for forever. Like, because money is always going to be an issue, but it's like, today, are you okay? And if
Mm-hmm.
today you are okay, then I bet you tomorrow you're going to be okay too. And just taking every day in stride. And at the end of the day, I like to, and I don't do it all the time, I do it when I feel like I got dragged by the day. If I feel like motherhood dragged me today, or if I feel like my 9 to 5 dragged me today, or if I feel like my business dragged me today, I'm going to take some time at the end of my day just to write down truths about myself. Very 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then I fall asleep to that. I record myself reading out these things, and then I will play it on my Alexa and just have it in a loop.
Okay, y'all. That's
Yeah.
a tip right there. Major key. There is another hashtag form of self-care right there. And that one is
hmm
gonna hit you deep.
If you make your voice the most governing voice, you'll never leave your voice. If you are the voice that's coming up, like, I literally have written out prayers to myself and have spoken blessings and protection and prayers and things over myself, and I will literally put it on repeat on my voice notes and just let it play all night long, because the thing is, I'm falling asleep to my voice. And the thing is, I know you're probably thinking like, oh, like, we shouldn't allow, lean on, so whose voice are you going to lean into?
That part.
When you speak, you should think that you're listening to the voice of God, because He gave you the voice. Now, the words may not be there, but the voice and the words are two separate things.
Hmm.
It's like your voice can say whatever it wants to say, but it doesn't mean that it's anointed. People use things that are anointed and misuse it all the time.
And do. I really like that you talked about writing these things out, recording it, and listening to it to yourself. I think that that is a really good way to regain power and control over that inner voice.
Yes.
So I don't even know how many episodes back it was, but we talked about Pastor. Shout out to Pastor Tyus. Who told
Yes.
you that? And thinking about
hmm
what you're thinking about. Both of those phrases came from two different people, but
hmm
in my head, I put them together because I'm like, okay, if I'm always thinking about what I'm thinking about, when that negative thought pops up as something automatic, and I listened to there was a sermon that talked about, well, who told you that? And the first thing I thought was, yeah, who told you that negative thought? And when
hmm
you go backwards and you think about it, it's like, now wait a minute, none of those negative things inherently came from you. you about yourself. Somebody else somewhere along your journey said something negative to you, or it was something repeated to you when you were growing up, or something that somebody said one time and it just stuck. That was
Yeah.
like a little seed and it just grew, and that became your internal voice or your internal thought about specific situations, triggers, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And when you're talking about listening to your own voice, affirming yourself, and listening to your own voice, stating the facts about yourself, not the feelings that you have based upon the
Hmm.
facts, you are able to reprogram your mind and get that stuff that everybody else said, the stuff that they say, getting all of that out of your subconscious, therefore bringing your automatic thoughts through as your voice. The
Yes.
facts about you in a situation, they're going to pop ups. I got to stop with the hands, but
No, you
bringing
good.
the
I keep
bringing
looking
up.
over because my screen is right here, so I want to make sure I'm looking at you because I want to engage, but I also don't want them to be like, "What's she looking at?" I'm looking at her on the screen. The camera's up here because I want to make sure I'm looking at you.
We do
So go ahead.
dual cams, y'all,
Okay.
dual screens, but
Yes.
when you're able to replace that automatic thought with, and instead of that thing that they said, we still ain't figured out who they is, and y'all, we
Hmm.
probably ain't gonna never know who they is, but
Mm-mm.
that thing that that one person said that took root, and that's what you automatically think about a situation all the time. You're able to reprogram your own mind so that you're in charge of you again, not those thoughts that were planted there, or those negative things that somebody else said. You get Here's another one of those, you get to choose. This is a you get to choose moment. You
Yes.
get to choose to reprogram that subconscious in your own head and make sure that you're replacing it with the positive things that were already in you from day one.
Hmm.
You already had those
Yes.
positive things inside before somebody else came along and said some mess to you.
Yes. And the thing is like I'm strategy, so I'm always like, when people say stuff like that, and we like, oh, like you have to read, do not be, was Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world and to the systems of this world, but be renewed by your mind. Okay, but how do you do that? So like in your brain you have something called the mental model, and this mental model is your predictive processing that your brain goes through. So every time you are in an environment and you're taking in this sensory stimuli, your mind is literally thinking, where have I seen, felt, or experienced this before? And it creates a new visualization of what's going to happen next. Is it always right? No. But is it powerful? Yes. So let's say you got bit by a dog when you were 8 years old. And now every time you see a dog, you feel and you believe and you get anxiety, you get the sweating, you want to run, that this dog is going to fight you. What is happening in your brain is that your brain is literally taking in the sensory of like, okay, it's daytime. A dog is barking. The dog is looking at me. So the dog is going to bite me because you got bit when you were younger. And that is the memory that you have of dogs. And because it was traumatic, it has stuck with you, right? So this is why people have fear of certain things. But then when you take it a step further, okay, how can I reprogram that? You have to send in error messages. Every time that happens, you have to tell your brain you weren't right. So let's take it from something that's kind of simple to that's more complex. You go out on a date, and the last couple of dates that you've been on, it hasn't been good. They haven't called back. You haven't been asked out on a second date. You have been very unlucky in love. And so you go on a dating websites and things of that nature, and everybody that you're liking their photos, they're not liking yours back. And so you get into this predictive process in your brain that nobody wants me, nobody wants to be with me. But then what if you send an error message and you change the meaning behind it? People aren't clicking on me because they're just not clicking on me. And I'm not going to let my mind I'm not going to try to figure it out. It doesn't matter why they're there because I want someone that's going to click my profile. That simple, where it's like your thought is not solidified in I'm ugly, I'm this, or I'm not entertaining. People don't, it's like, oh, it's pee in a dating pool. Like it's you're experiencing the pee pee part of the pool because you won't go. You won't leave. You won't stay. You won't change the way that your mind is thinking about certain things. And so the thing is, an error message is what goes into the brain when something else different than what the brain has forecasted happens. It sends an error message to your brain that says, you were wrong. This is why people that are narcissists start off as very traumatic, like like people that have been through so much trauma that they literally have fixed their brains to be that I am a god. I deserve everything. Because they have fixated in their minds, they got so sick and tired of being the victim that they became the villain.
Mm.
And it's a different way of thinking of things and things of coming into covenant with. And this is why in the first class, actually the one that you were at, well, you were at all of mine, so thank you. But at the first one, I really was hitting on how curses manifest. Like, we talk about generational curses and we say like, oh, I broke the generational curse because I didn't get pregnant at 16 like my mom and my grandmother. What you're doing is manifesting shame for your bloodline going forward.
Mm.
That is not breaking a generational curse, because a generational curse is not an act, it's a heart posture.
That's
It is
good.
words that have been spoken over your lifeline, your bloodline, your family, and the curse that you broke or you want to break. If it's, all of my, women in my family got divorced, or all of the men in my family weren't present, is that if you are a present father, then maybe you are breaking the curse of feeling insecure about being a dad.
Mm.
Maybe you are breaking the curse of not having emotional stability enough to raise a kid. Or maybe you are breaking the curse that who you are right now is good enough and you're going to get better. These are all words that we say of ourselves, sayings that we give ourselves, and they're really cliches. But if you look up the definition of a cliche is an opinion or a word that people say often, but they never really act on. You take a cliche and you actually do it, that's action. That's breaking a curse. That's bringing. And when you heal one thing in your bloodline, you heal frontwards and backwards.
Mm. That's good.
You take that out of your bloodline, you will heal your great 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 grandmother, because what it say in the Bible? You will bind on earth, you will bind in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth, you will loose in heaven. So let me find out that you are healing your great 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 grandmother's insecurity about not being good enough because you decided that you was going to wait. That you was going to wait until you were in a happy marriage or in a spot where you felt like, you know what, I actually want to have a kid. And you break the curse of, I'm just going to rush into everything. And the thing is, it's like, we have to remember, like, the things that come out of our decisions are manifestations. Those aren't the things that we thought we were doing. Like, a baby is a manifestation of not having contraception. That's the end result, right? But what is the action that happens? That is sex. So it's like, if you're having sex because you're like, this is how I get close to people, this is how I do things, then that's just it. And if we really take the time to really look at, like, what has to be true for this to be true. So what does it have to be true for a man to not take care of his family? What has to be true for a woman to become bitter that she keeps a man away from his family, his kids, his kid? What has to be true for a teen to give up their body so readily? What has to be true for this to be true? And that is what you should look at, not breaking the curse, but adjusting the heart posture. Because sometimes we try to break the curse and we break the generation, and you bring about a new curse because now you're living in a shame. And now you're shaming the people that come before you, which is absolutely so disrespectful and so disgusting. And I absolutely, like, it's not a lot of things that I hate, but I absolutely hate that, because you don't know what generational curse that they broke before you was even here.
Mm. That's good. And that's a lot to chew on right there, and a whole different way to think about it for sure. Um, and look, you automatically just went right down the list. I could check off all of these
Yep.
things. And I'm like, I wanted to make sure that we talked about. Okay. So I want to move into You talked about changing your heart posture and what that looks like as you're moving through things. And I wanted to touch a little bit on when you're talking about breaking, like, and you touched on it a little bit when you were talking about breaking the generational curses
Hmm.
and how we need to reframe our minds with the way that we look at doing that by
Hmm.
changing our heart posture as opposed to shunning those before us and, those different situations and things. That kind of sounds to me like there's a bit of ego involved when you're looking at it that way.
Yes.
That is like a negative thing, and you opened it up and expanded that in a way that I had never heard before and hadn't before considered it. Um, and I had to go back and think about, okay, when I talk about generational curses, what am I thinking of when I say those things?
Hmm.
And I think that sometimes that's one of those things that it's become a buzzword.
Yes.
Because I'm like, okay, well, I mean, there's things that I guess it could be considered generational curses, but like I feel like we talk about these things and just lump it all together. Like, yeah, I'm breaking generational curses, and it's like,
Yeah.
but which ones? What
You ain't
specifically are
you
you
ain't
talking
broke a
about?
generational curse. You broke a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Because even like you broke a cycle of getting pregnant at 16 or not being absent. And I'm only using that because it's just like the easiest to go off of.
Mm-hmm.
You're breaking a cycle, which is motion. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a cycle is nothing but something that's moving in the same direction over and over again, just like a bicycle. It's just moving forward or moving backwards. That's it. The thing is like, but you did not break that unworthiness off of you.
Mm-hmm.
You did not break that I'm not good enough off of you. So the thing is like you carried the curse, but you stopped the cycle, and now you created a new cycle to say that you're unworthy. You
Mm-hmm.
created a new cycle of saying, I can't do this. And so, even though you didn't get pregnant and even though you didn't leave your children fatherless, you're still you're still bringing that curse into covenant with your bloodline because you never broke the curse. You just stopped the cycle. And the thing is like sometimes you can only break the cycle. The one thing that I really that makes my heart hurt and makes my blood boil all at the same time is that when people think that they are supposed to wipe out everything that's icky and nasty out of their bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough ickiness and nastiness in your bloodline for your kids to do something. You focus on what is attacking you right now. That is your that is your Goliath. And even when you go into, if we have some Bible readers in here, when you read the book of, like, when you read the story of David and Goliath, David says, my God will kill you and I will cut off your head. So David never took ownership of killing Goliath. He only took ownership of cutting off his head, which in those times was evidence that somebody was really dead. It was more of a trophy of like, look at what my God did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the thing is, it's like, if you gon' lean on yourself and believe in yourself, that is your cross to bear. But also, like, you don't go through anything for no reason. And what you are facing right now, your Goliath, what is ever standing in front of you, and you know a Goliath because it'll stop you from dreaming, from imagining, from using your true imagination and to just try something. If you find yourself not even able to try, that is the curse that you want to break. That is the cycle that you want to break. And whatever else is left over when you die, tough titty, hard nipple. The next person has to do it, because sometimes we get to these parts where we're like, oh, you got to break it because your mama couldn't do it and your grandpa couldn't do it. No, maybe you were the one that God appointed to do it.
That's good.
It's like we have to take ownership, spiritual ownership of our lives, and stop thinking that, oh, they left the dishes out for me because they knew it was my turn to wash. No, you got one person on plates and one person on bowls because God wants the whole pantry to be clean. The Bible says that our life ain't nothing but a vapor. You can't extinguish everything in your bloodline. And it's like, even as I'm talking, it's like I'm brought back to like the kings of the Old Testament where they be like, they did everything good in God's sight, and then their sons turn to wicked ways, putting up poles and
Mhm.
all type of idols. It's like if you don't leave something for your kid to do, for your kid to overcome, they'll misuse the freedom that you gave them. They need something to do. They
That's
need something to
good.
fight. And
That
you're
is.
not, and the reason why God says you're more than a conqueror, He's trying to say you're more than a soldier on the battlefield.
Mhm.
Leave something for somebody else. Focus. If you can just get really good at pulling out insecurity, pulling out kind of this double mindedness, wayward, double taking yourself and not believing in the person that God keeps showing you that you are, that people keep telling you that you are, then you will have a better life, and so will the people after you. Because at that point, you can only do what you're called to in this lifetime.
Yeah, that's good. And when you look at it that way of only doing what you were called to do instead of doing everything,
Hmm.
that does take some self-reflection, that does take some self-assessment and really digging deep when you're looking at writing out your vision, when you are looking at finding your purpose isn't to fix everything. Your purpose isn't to be all things to all people. A shameless plug if you need to take your flight assessment. When you That's one of the things that shows up in flight assessment results. If your results look a certain way, and if your results come through to me and you are getting your coaching with me, I will tell you like, hey, okay, it's something amiss here. When you're trying to be everything to everybody, it's it shows in the results, it shows in the assessment, because when you're being all things to all people, you don't have the capacity to just be you. And if
Yeah,
you're not taking your capacity to just be you, the thing that you were put here to do, you aren't going to set out to do that, because you here, there, everywhere. You are not on mission, not on assignment, because you all over the place trying to do everything for everybody else.